Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas Podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, everything school HQ, dealing with -8 temperatures for tomorrow. And folks, let me tell you, as cool as it is to have nearly 10 inches of snow on the ground, and my little Keyshawn loving every second of it, it's cold. And one of the best things to do when it's stinking cold like this is to stay indoors, watch basketball, and do basketball podcasts. And I am doing that with my good friend and over there in Denver, Colorado, of Roundball Ramble and Swish Theory and everywhere else, Corban Ford. Corban, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. Always happy to talk hoops here with y'all. Cold, but other than that, no complaints. I like how I was the one who was like, oh, it's so cold. And then like I heard two other temperatures that have been colder than mine. And now I'm like, it's still kind of chilly.
Hey, look, we're all on the same page as we talked about before we got started here. Vivek Jacob is also here of Sportsnet, among many other places. I mean, I am called the sports renaissance man here, but Vivek is a little bit of a sports renaissance man himself, covering all kinds of sports as well. So excited to have Vivek, one of my favorite freelance writers, going right now. Hi, Vivek. Let him write for you. Let him write for your paper, magazine, whoever, because he's very good. I've been reading Vivek for several years now. So Vivek, good evening, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on. And, as part of the brand, I do have the Australian Open tennis on right now. Mm-hmm. So happy to talk some basketball with some tennis on in the background.
I don't know. I can't speak for Corban, but when I tell you, the sports renaissance man, I know a little bit about a lot. I know nothing about tennis. It's aggressively not in my wheelhouse. I was kicked out of tennis camp when I was in first grade because I had a propensity to hitting the ball over the fence. I like baseball, and I didn't really like the whole keeping it in the line. So I kept launching that bad boy over where the Olympics was. So I'm from Atlanta, and we had the 1996 Olympics. So they built all these different tennis courts all around the city for I don't know what to call it, trials or I don't know before they got into it, but there was all these different venues that you go to before. So, and one of them was by my house growing up, and they had a tennis camp, and it was super nice. And that was what the complex was built for, was just the Olympics. So it's just been there for years and years after the Olympics left. But yeah, it did not go well. So that was my lone venture into tennis. Did you play tennis growing up, Vivek, or is it just something you liked watching and got into? What is the...
It's actually the first sport I played because my dad used to play it. Huh. And so that's kind of how I got into it. And then sort of all the other stuff came along. But yeah, tennis is kind of my first love when it comes to sports. So long attachment to it.
There you go. Well, we will not be talking tennis on this very program, but if you'd like to talk tennis and you're listening to this very program, reach out to Vivek. He will talk tennis because Corban and I will not be able to do so on your podcast. What we will be able to do is talk about the NBA and what is going on right now. We didn't know if we were going to have Vivek tonight because the Toronto Raptors, after the Raptors and Vivek, I don't know, I'm an Atlanta sports guy, Atlanta original, and Dejounte Murray has been in trade rumors forever, seemingly now, and John Collins is right there before, and I think there's a lot of actual parallels between Collins and Pascal over the last couple of years with their respective teams, but he's been floating. It feels like we've talked about on this program, Corban, many times that what the Raptors were going to do about Pascal Siakam. But it seems like we're in the end stages of a Pascal Siakam move, potentially to the Pacers. When you look at the parameters right now, as it stands, Vivek, is this the best deal the Raptors could get for Pascal at this time? And do you think now is the time to move Pascal Siakam?
So I think in terms of the package for Pascal on an expiring contract, this is a pretty good deal. You obviously you get Bruce Brown as the key salary component. And obviously Bruce Brown can play. And then you get the 3 first-round picks. And then I think what will determine how good this deal is what that salary filler is. Is it just, Buddy Hield getting thrown in and boom, you're there in terms of the salaries? Or do you get one of the young pieces? Is there an Andrew Nembhard? Is there a Benedict Mathurin? Is there a Jarris Walker? And I think that will kind of determine whether or not, the Raptors side feels like they've come out on top in this deal. In terms of what's the best route to take for the Raptors, I've been on the side that you should be looking to extend Pascal Siakam. I thought they should have extended him in the summer, even if it was to deal him later down the line, because I do think part of why you've maybe received some underwhelming trade packages is because he is potentially a rental. He's had reports leak that, he won't commit to any team and that he will enter free agency. And that inherent risk is something that teams probably don't want to take on and will, as a result, only give up so much. So for me, I thought the front office fumbled the bag when this summer he became ineligible for the Supermax because he didn't make an All-NBA team. And to me, that should have been a neon green light. It's like, hey, Pascal Siakam is not a Supermax player, but he is a regular max player. And so once the Supermax was out of the equation, I thought it was a no-brainer to get that extension done. And then, if you come down the line and you say, hey, a year from now, we got to move on, whatever it is, you have that flexibility because guess what? He's on contract. You mentioned Dejounte Murray. Guess what? No one really cares about what Dejounte Murray wants because he's already inked an extension.
Yeah.
And the Raptors could have put themselves in that position, but they haven't. And so right now, when you look at the threat of him potentially leaving in free agency versus, getting 3 first-round picks plus potentially, hopefully, another young piece, I think you have to strongly consider it.
Does that feel right to you, Corban?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I mean, like you said, I was going to say historical fumble the bag, given wherever he ends up, right? Indiana, maybe, I don't know. But point being, yeah, it's again a trend we've seen from Toronto the last couple of years. So multiple opportunities with pending free agents where I guess they have no idea what they want to do, and it's like, we're going to hold on to them, but we don't know if we want to keep them, or we're not going to shell out the money for them, or we're not going to trade them when they're at their values at all-time high. And I get a sense of nostalgia in a way, but I just feel like it's a misplaced sense of timing when it comes to your players and just knowing them. I mean, even looking at Kyle Lowry, you could have had something for him trade deadline 2 years ago. And when I say that, I don't mean he just he ended up trading him, but I remember it was all set up. He even had the goodbye to the cameras and everything that was all right, it's done. It's an all but done deal. And then trade deadline goes and passes oh, I guess it isn't. So yeah, just echoing much of what Vivek said, but it just feels not really understanding I don't even want to say personnel, but just understand as people. Do they want to stay? Do they not want to stay? I think everyone and their mama knows what Pascal Siakam feels in terms of extensions and being in Toronto or going somewhere else. So at this point, what are we doing? Only you side knows that, I guess.
The only thing I'll quickly add there is beyond knowing your personnel, it's also, I think they misread the market with Fred VanVleet. I don't think they anticipated Houston coming after him the way they did.
Why do you think that is?
I think they expected Houston to make the James Harden play. And so I just don't think they saw them as contenders for Fred. I think they expected maybe a run from Orlando. And I think that's something that just kind of caught them off guard. And again, that's on the front office. You have to be able to anticipate that. And that was a failure on their part. And as well as, how high Houston was able to go.
Do you think the same thing could potentially happen here? Because it's that, as we're recording late on a Tuesday, the trade has not gone through. I mean, is part of it just because you lost Fred VanVleet for nothing and you kind of misread the market and you had an opportunity to trade Fred VanVleet for a pretty good value at the trade deadline because he could have helped a lot of contenders. Toronto obviously was not going to be a contender last year, the last of the Nick Nurse run. And it was just kind of it felt like the last of an era for the Toronto Raptors, and also a great era because look, Masai deserves a lot of the benefit of the doubt here. I mean, he's been bold before, obviously with the Kawhi trade, and it paid off, but he's also been very loyal and he's been very careful in mixing and matching a lot of his guys. They deserve credit. They built Fred VanVleet up. That is a huge win for them. Scotty Barnes, to this point, looks like he is going to be developed into a very, very good perennial all-star in Toronto. Pascal Siakam is a huge development win in Toronto. You'll have some misses like the Gary Trent of the world, who's also been on the trade block forever, but hey, maybe a little bit better with the coaching changes that the other coaches will always have favorites. Some guys I'm dealing with it right now with Quinn Snyder. Quinn Snyder's a good coach, but guess what? AJ Griffin getting DMP CDs. So I don't know if that means AJ Griffin is not the guy, but it just might not be a good fit, and it might be somewhere else. So all that to say, I wonder with Masai, how much of it is loyalty to these guys that they developed and just kind of want to do right by, and how much of it is because he might be misreading the market and I don't want to say misunderstanding, but just kind of not handling this weird middle ground of not contention, kind of on the playoff bubble, and just you gotta decide, Masai. Unfortunately, the NBA life comes at you fast. You've got to make quick, very difficult decisions on guys like VanVleet and Pascal, and you just can't let this get to the finish line.
Yeah, I think that's actually a very difficult question to answer because of their actions. And so on the one side, you say, hey, is it, trying to time it right? Or is it the loyalty? And then when you look at the loyalty aspect, like Fred VanVleet went on the Woj pod and said, hey, when I went for my meeting, it wasn't exactly a sales pitch. And this is a guy that you've had right from the get-go, who came through the Raptors 905, won a championship in the D League, what was then the D League, now the G League, won that championship. He was part of that lovable bench mob with Pascal Siakam and Jakob Poeltl and DeLon Wright. And then obviously they go win a championship together. Like, these should be two of the best stories that this franchise has, and they could both potentially be walking out the door for nothing. And potentially, I won't call it fractured relationships because they've, that championship is forever.
Yeah.
But it is bittersweet if it were to play out that way. And even the way it's played out over the summer, like when I showed up in media day and both Masai and Pascal revealed that they didn't have a single conversation all summer about an extension, I was like, what is going on? How is that possible? And, I get that, Scotty is now the face of the franchise and everything is directed to him, but you also don't need to be so blatant about it. Like, there's the Raptors have this show, Open Gym, and, there's film of Masai on the phone, just flat out after acquiring Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett saying, hey, Quickly, like, we see you as a perfect fit next to Scotty. You and Scotty, that's the team going forward. Like, even if you think that you're going to move on from Pascal, like, why are you putting this out in the open?
It just feels like you're aggressively reminding him that he's not a part of the long-term plans, but it's like you still just won't move him. So it's like, what are we doing? Like, just move me. If you're not a part of the plans, like, also your value, like, you just move him. Like, it's just one of those things. And I think if you end up doing this Pacers deal, I think that's a huge win for Toronto. And here's the scary part. I wonder, and we can end this part of it here, Vivek. But I think the scary part to me, if you're a Raptors fan, is, look, you've got Scotty. He's a cornerstone cornerstone piece to this puzzle. However, that's the only long-term solution you have right now. And you're looking at the rest of this roster. You were playing 6-7 guys the last couple of years with Nick Nurse. It wasn't like you were developing a bunch of guys behind him and that there is all this help on the horizon. You'll get some help in this Pascal deal, depending on what ends up happening here. But you're going to be back wandering the wilderness. You'll be back like in the bottom, not the Pistons level, I don't think, but life is going to come at the Raptors fast once they make this flip. So I wonder if Masai is up for that. Is he up for a long-term rebuild? Because I think if you do this, there's no more living in the middle like they've done and tried to balance that after this. Once Pascal's gone, you lost VanVleet, no Lowry, no Kawhi. Like, you're at the bare bones here. And I think there's
the entire
huge drop-off
rotation is gone.
Right? Like, you're going to be bad. And there's just no telling in the NBA how bad and how long it's going to be. So I wonder if Raptors fans, and maybe that's part of why Masai's been so careful here.
Yeah, no, that's a completely fair point. Corban, I don't know if you wanted to touch on this first at all.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I'm with you. I feel like I'm with, I guess, Chase in this way. It's like, it's confusing to me. I think of the fact that, like, they're not in a situation where again, they're not in a situation where this is of any benefit to either of them, right? I think it doesn't do Pascal any good. It doesn't do the Raptors any good. If you look at the team, I feel like they've been better as of late. Kind of up and down. I mean, I've only been like seriously watching them for the last 2 weeks. I've been watching them throughout the season, but like I feel like they've been a little bit better since the Knicks trade, of course, right? But like all in all, this isn't a team that's going to go second round of the playoffs. Let's get them into playoffs first, right? So like ultimately, what are you doing? You know, and I do think it's just confusing. I mean, I'm listening to this right now, even when you mentioned, Vivek, about how you don't have any conversations at all during the offseason. Like in my mind, you know, you have a situation where the communication isn't there. You have when the Raptors and Kings played a couple weeks ago, January 5th, the Raptors visited the Kings and Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster were there. Apparently, right after that, like talks kind of ended, and they're asking Siakam about it. Like it's just awkward and weird, and like I don't know what is the point here, you know? And then I don't know. I mean, apparently, I guess my next question, I mean, it's kind of on a future point we're going to talk about with the Kings. It's like, okay, so where does he go? What does the trade look like? Because where is his value? Like, obviously, Pascal Siakam is a very skilled, very good player, 2-time All-Star, you know, 2-time All-NBA. Like, he's a guy who can really help you. Now, he also needs a specific fit to kind of really, truly shine. But, like, you've also been kind of dampening his trade value while also making it very clear that he is probably not going to be in Toronto Threads next year. So I'm just listening to soaking up any insight here, Vivek, because I don't understand the ultimate end game here. And then ultimately, I guess my biggest question is like, what is the ultimate trade package for him? Because I've heard like 3 first-round picks. You hear other things tossed around. It's like I'm just unsure as to what Toronto was attempting to do outside of making it clear that he is not the future, which that's fine. I'm not upset with that. It's just a weird way to say it.
Yeah, no, I hear that. When you look towards the future for the Raptors, you fully expect Emmanuel Quickly to be signed to a long-term deal. He's a restricted free agent, so obviously having traded for him, you expect the Raptors to match any offer that'll be out there for him. RJ Barrett is under contract. Jakob Poeltl is under contract. So that's kind of the trio that you're looking at moving forward. And beyond that, I think that's
Can I just say that's bad in the East? That's a team that's losing a lot of games, folks. Like, that's not good. Like, I like Emmanuel Quickly. I'm RJ Barrett, but I'm like, that's a bad team. That team's not scoring well. That team's just bad.
Offense will be fun to watch. And by fun, I mean like how it works. I just want to see how that happens.
But also, like, isn't Pascal like the perfect fit in Indiana, where it's like, as someone who has been blitzed and watched the Hawks get absolutely blitzed by the Pacers multiple times this year, where they're just completely overwhelmed at just the high energy nature that that Rick Carlisle has put together in Indiana, and just no positions. Like, guys are just running around, and some are big, some are small, and you're just never knowing where the ball is getting whipped around to. It's just the most positionless basketball group you'll see on a night-to-night basis. Pascal is the ultimate fit there, where it's like, it doesn't really matter because he's just not a natural 4, not a natural 3, whatever. Rick's not going to care, and Rick's going to put him in a position where he's just gonna thrive and just make life a living hell for a lot of teams, just like they've done all year. Just because it's that scheme just feels like a good fit for him, and them doing him a solid.
Yeah, I think Indiana is a no-brainer fit, especially you factor in Miles Turner as a big that can space the floor. Mm-hmm. I think that makes a huge. I think that's part of why, you know, in terms of Scottie and Pascal, if there was a spacing big, like if you were to say, for example, just put Miles Turner on the Raptors instead of Jakob Poeltl, all of a sudden that makes so much more sense and is so much more fluid, right? And I think that has presented a bit of an issue, and so we'll have to see how that works out. But you know, part of why I think in any Pascal deal, the Raptors need more than just picks is, again, to fill out the roster with guys who are ready to play, right? And I think when you look at the backup positions, okay, so you've got Dennis Schroeder as a backup point guard. He is a solid NBA backup at the point guard position. Gary Trent Jr. is going to be a free agent. Jalen McDaniels has not been it. He has not panned out at all. You've got Chris Boucher at the 4. Dejounte Porter has been playing. He just the last game. He started the last game because Jakob Poeltl is out, and Christian Koloko has a respiratory issue that there's no timeline on. And so the Raptors are going to need I think at least one or two guys who are ready to play beyond just the picks. And so that's something that is important in evaluating whatever comes back for Pascal. In terms of fits, yeah, I'd put Indiana at the top. Uh, I'd also say Dallas would be an interesting fit.
Mm,
I think he would slot in really well next to Kyrie and Luca.
yeah.
And then you've got Derek Lively at the 5. They've got so much shooting. I think that's the thing, right? Like if you
Yeah.
look at a team that has shooting, then he's going to be a seamless fit. OKC, you've got all those picks. If you're willing to throw in like a Case and Wallace or whoever it might be, like they can get in there if they want to, right?
Mhm.
They probably feel great about where they are and where things are headed. But if they wanted to, I think they could absolutely get in the mix, which is ironic because for years now, the Raptors fans have been just praying to somehow find a way to steal Shai Gilgeous-Alexander away from OKC. But obviously that's not happening.
No. Pivoting, you mentioned the Kings here a little bit, Corban. Who is the right trade partner for Harrison Barnes? It obviously is ending here with him as the long-term answer at the 4. And I forgot who we were talking to. Maybe it was Jackson last week, Jackson Lloyd, who mentioned that like the Kings need their version of Aaron Gordon next to Sabonis. Where like finding the right guy next to Jokic took some time, but they found it. And Aaron Gordon catapulted them to being a real contender, and obviously win the title, and now a perennial contender. Who is that? And can they use Harrison Barnes to facilitate that guy to find the right match at the 4 next to Sabonis, who's just he's still a great player, still an all-star player, but I just think it's really hard to find another Aaron Gordon in this league to make this a seamless fit and to cover up a lot of not the huge weaknesses, because Sabonis is still a great player, but the things that the natural limitations of Sabonis at this point in his NBA career.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to go back to Pascal Siakam. I don't really hate to do that, but like I would like Siakam there. Like I think that he would kind of fit again that same role. Like Siakam was better at that role than I think Aaron Gordon was when they both were individually there. But like a guy who athletic, can kind of do the little things, has some high level passing, can definitely be put upon to score. I think Siakam was more versatile than Aaron Gordon was. Like Aaron Gordon's 3-point shot always kind of came and went, but he had a pretty decent post game. Mid range was there, but like in Denver, he's able to use that. Like he's able to be in the perfect position where if they need more scoring opportunistically, like he's able to get a good. We saw in the NBA Finals last year. I think most of all, we had a couple of games where it's okay. You're going to put your small guy on me. Like I can still put the ball in the hoop. Do you know what I mean? I just may not be as good at it as others on the team, but like he's very good there in the space that he was playing with, and a great most like all-time cerebral passer in Jokic unlocked additional elements of Gordon's game. But Gordon could also bring the ball up. Gordon could also initiate offense. Like he was kind of in that quasi, initiator role in Orlando for years before, coming to Denver. And he was, yes, miscast in that role, but in spurts, solid. And I think Siakam is like that on a better level. I think they're both iffy on the 3-point shot. Like both are just not really consistently good there, but like individually scoring, rebounding, facilitating, like Pascal does all of that. And you're in a position where you have the spacing around you and the constant motion that you can get the ball and go in transition, that you're able to capitalize on the defense having to, fan out to stop your array of shooters around you, and similar high-low passing with Domantas Sabonis, similar interior, I don't know. I'm not even sure the word I'm trying to say. Magic. There we go. Magic. There it came.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be that's a fit I would like. If only because the Kings are fun, but I really think defensively that 4 spot is interesting. And mind you, Keegan Murray is there, but you could play him at a 3, I feel. And if you have a lineup where you have, Fox and Sabonis and Keegan and Siakam, that's some good size, that's some good spacing. Whoever you slot the 2. At that point, the question I think is more what package do you send back to Toronto that makes Toronto go, okay, like we like this, because you're not getting Keegan Murray, right? That's just not what Toronto's going to get. And I don't think you can really make a case for Davion Mitchell right now. I was like, hey, so if it's matching salary, I mean, you do have Harrison Barnes, you do have Kevin Huerter, like you do have people, Davion Mitchell, would have to dump in some picks, and you'd still have to hope that Toronto likes that. And I think that there are other packages, Indiana, that can offer more, but that would be the perfect fit for me. I mean, Harrison Barnes is someone who's like, I don't know, he's that contract he had over this past summer, 3 years, $54 million. Like, it's not super great for Sacramento right now. He's definitely taking a step back this season. He's a good spot-up shooter. At least he's sort of decent. Every time I watch him, he seems to not be able to shoot. But like for the most part, we know he has a consistent track record of being a decent shooter.
He's entered like the Jeff Green part of his career, right? Where it's time for Harrison Barnes to bounce around as a good locker room 3-point shooter, rotation guy, but also like he should not be one of your 5 closers. Like that ship has sailed. He's just but he's valuable. Like Harrison Barnes is still going to be in this league for several more years. I just don't think he can be that guy if the Kings are looking to get to that next level. I think it's just he's now miscast in his role. And with Keegan coming on and getting better, Herter, we'll see what happens there. There's just weird rotation stuff where Damian Mitchell is like in and out. Like I don't know what Mike Brown. There are teams around the league where you can just tell, like when you're watching League Pass, they're like they don't know who their best 5 is right now. Like they're just picking. The Kings are an ultimate. They have no idea who their best 5 is any given night.
And it's true.
Golden State's giving them a run for their money.
Oh my God. Well, speaking of Golden State, Kuminga's actually like would make a lot of sense in Sacramento. Like that would be a high and interesting flyer. Give him a lot of opportunity. You reunite Barnes back in Golden State. I don't hate Kuminga being given a runway to play next to somebody like Sabonis long term.
I just don't think the Warriors ownership has any desire to let him go. Like they seem super high on him. Someone I would, throw out there as I think a solid plan B to Siakam, and especially if the assets you're giving up are Barnes and Herter.
It'd probably be Herter, right? I think Herter's going to have to be part of this package.
Yeah. If that's the type of package, I think someone who might be more attainable, might be Jerami Grant.
Huh.
Interesting.
And he just became trade eligible Jan 15th after inking that extension. If you look at the way the cap projects, it's really not that bad a contract. And you get this wing defender that you need, has really improved his individual scoring ability, can clearly be a third guy behind Fox and Sabonis, and can probably settle in nicely in that 3-4 spot next to Keegan Murray. And I think, again, as a guy who can knock down the 3 ball, defend the opposing team's best wing, like I think that's a nice fit, and probably more realistic for that type of package.
I hadn't considered him, but I don't hate that. And I mean, a fun game to play with your friends. I don't know if y'all can do this, but who's on the Blazers is a fun thing right now, because some of those you'll see and you're like, I have no idea who this is. I like to believe
who he played for.
Yes, it's just the Blazers. And then after the trade deadline, it's only going to get worse. The Blazers are they're not real. The Portland Trail, but there's a Ryan Rupert right now, a Justin Minaya, Jabari Walker, a Kamara.
Yep.
There's just some guys that were like, I believe you, I guess. Like that sounds right. But yeah, no, I don't hate that. I don't hate Jerami Grant there. I had not considered him, and I think that's an also realistic package. And I wonder, because they also have kind of an overflow of guard depth, like, do you be like, hey, we know you're not going to go with Anthony Simons, Scoot Henderson, and company,
Shaden Sharp,
and Shaden Sharp. Can we have Anthony Simons in this type of deal? Like, I know you like it, but like, can we also get him? And then you're really cooking. I mean, you'd have to give it some picks and stuff, but it's like the Kings are at a point where you need to be in the playoffs every year and be working to get better. You finally broke the playoff streak. That needs to be the MO. These fans have been waiting on this forever. You just need to maximize the window of Fox and Sabonis and see what happens. Just keep trying to upgrade around the edges. You got Murray, who looks like a winner early in the draft. So look, that's your team. Just keep taking big swings and see what happens. Because look, you could be where the Hawks and the Raptors are. You could, or Corbin's Lakers, just wandering the wilderness, the NBA wilderness.
You saw us. We had a good win against the Thunder. Okay, for the record, I think part of that is now. I'm sorry, I have to say something. Okay, so Darvin Ham right now is finally playing a lineup that, I mean, for whatever reason, he hasn't really gone to since opening night. That I think is better. For the record, I think the Lakers are at this point in time, like, I feel like the West is wide open. Like, the Lakers, I think, can play against any team with the exception of the Denver Nuggets. Like, I just don't. They're just not a good matchup for them on just various levels. But aside from that, it's like just not messing around. Like, you had a lineup with 0 shooting and LeBron and AD, and you tried that out, and then you had, you're playing Jared Vanderbilt and Cam Reddish heavy minutes as like your wing shooters and they don't shoot. Like it's just a lot going on there. Listen, I think the Lakers are going to figure it out. I think my one concern is that they go making drastic moves at the deadline, which I don't think that they seem to be going to do, but you never know. Because this lineup, I think, just needs some continuity and some actual decent strategic coaching. That's kind of my line. And maybe some additional I guess awareness of the fact that, listen, like you can't just throw everything on LeBron and AD at this stage in time and be okay, carry us with whatever lineup. Like, no, there needs to be some infrastructure there, offensively, defensively, mix and match, and just commit to putting together like an actual lineup. So that's my Laker thing. I'm done. Seeing the Thunder commit defensively and they'll be fine. There we go.
Okay. I love that you're still optimistic. I'm so emotionally drained from the Atlanta Hawks right now. And then them like if Dejounte Murray gets traded back to the Spurs, I think I might check out. I think in good conscience, I can't watch the rest of the Hawks this year. I can't do that to myself to trade as much as they did for Dejounte Murray only to reunite him with Pop and get go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt there, but I was curious how you guys feel about a potential Dejounte Lakers deal if you have to give up Austin Reeves.
I mean, I don't want Austin Reeves. He doesn't help the Hawks. I don't want Austin Reeves.
You would be honored to have Austin Reeves on
I wouldn't.
Okay.
Hard pass. What do I need Austin Reeves for?
Your best guard. I'm being very sick. I'm just kidding.
Like, what do I want? What team is what? We can't defend anybody. I don't want Austin Reeves on this team. I don't want Austin Reeves, Trae Young. I just don't.
You get a younger player on a decent contract.
Okay.
Who can play both guard positions, and worst case scenario, you just turn him right over the next season. Like
we're playing Sadiq Bey, Austin Reeves, Trae Young, and like
listen, yeah, the Hawks are going nowhere no matter what y'all do this off. Like that's my thought process. I'm just saying.
I don't want to do this. We're not doing the Lakers a solid. This is us doing the Lakers a solid if we trade Dejounte to Los Angeles.
Let me say something. I feel like it would be mostly a solid. It would be interesting though, because I feel that one thing I think we've seen from the Hawks experience with Dejounte Murray is he's much better. We kind of knew this already, but he's much better on ball than off. That's just like he's shooting a three ball. I think he's shooting like a 37% clip. Like he's shooting it better, but it's not like huge volume. And you could tell he's one of those guys who needs to be more on ball. Now he's already doing a your turn, my turn with, he's already doing a your turn, my turn with Trae Young. Now he's going to come over and do that more with LeBron and AD. And mind you, I think that he'll get more of an opportunity just because of where LeBron is right now. Like LeBron can no longer be, full-time point guard or point guard for large stretches like that. But there's going to be a good amount of time where Dejounte is playing off ball. And I don't know how effective he's going to be on a team that already is bad with shooting. Like Dejounte is a decent shooter, but like this Lakers team's horrible shooting. And then alternatively, on the defensive side of the ball, mind you, I don't know if it's because he's taken on a larger offensive responsibility, but Dejounte Murray defensively has not been super great in Atlanta. Like he's just not. He already has, he's a little thin. Like he already gives some physical, he brings some physical limitations defensively there that just come with him, but he was still a lot more active in San Antonio than he's in Atlanta. So the hope is if he comes to Los Angeles, is he going to kick that back into gear? You know what I mean? Like it's not like you're playing for like a cellar dweller. The Hawks are bad, but like they're not like Detroit Pistons bad. So I guess
depending on which night you watch him.
Huh?
Depending on which night you watch the Hawks.
There you go. I almost feel like this is a weird analogy to go with, but I'm going with it. Aaron Aflalo. I feel like he's one of those players where they start off like a really solid role player. Aaron Aflalo in Denver. Then he went to Orlando, and he was like, good shit, like good stats, bad team guy. He was more of a primary offensive engine, all of that, quote unquote offensive engine. But you get what I mean? Then he went to Portland and had to like bring his role back to being okay. Bring what you brought when you were in Denver, but also keep a little bit of what you had in Orlando. And like he was already, I want to say he was in his early 30s. Wasn't on the tail end of his career, but he couldn't quite do it. I feel like Dejounte is one of those guys where he built himself a certain type of way. Then he was in Atlanta and he was like a star, and he's a really solid player. Like he's a star. He's not a superstar. He's a really solid player.
He's not a star.
But now you're going on a team where, now you're going on a team with LeBron.
I can't do it. He's fine. Dejounte Murray's fine.
There you go. I would say that. But I'm just saying, like, can he adapt his role in LA? And I just think that is a question. So I don't know if you'd be doing a solid. Like, we'd be getting a better defensive player than Austin Reeves because Reeves isn't good defensively. But it would also come with this whole other set of questions and fit issues that, do we really trust Darvin Ham to figure out? I love Darvin, but, a great coaching mind I have not seen.
No, I don't know. I guess we'll see. I think Dejounte's getting traded no matter what. Nothing would surprise me in terms of where he ends up. He's been linked everywhere, and I just don't know what his real value is. I don't think it's going to be what Pascal Siakam gets for Toronto is my guess. I don't think it's going to be close to that return. Final thing here, y'all. Vivek, question for you here. Corban and I do this every week, and this was a team that I watched a little bit this week in preparation, bouncing around each week, giving more insight to different teams. League pass team right now for the casual NBA fan. Why or why not would you recommend folks tune in and see what the Miami Heat are doing right now?
Well, I am a Jimmy Buckets guy, and Jimmy Butler just came back. So that is the number one reason to watch the Miami Heat. I love watching that guy ball. I know, obviously, he kind of cranks it up for the postseason, but, I imagine, especially now coming down the stretch, that he'll already start to crank things up. So that'd be not my number one reason. Obviously, it's unfortunate that Jaime Jaquez picked up an injury, or else he'd be one of my reasons too. Bam Adebayo has been sensational this season, and I think he'll be right in the mix for Defensive Player of the Year. But those would be, the obvious choices. I would have loved to shout out Jaime Jaquez, but you're gonna have to wait a little bit to watch him after he picked up, I believe, a groin injury.
He just looks like a 17-year vet when you watch him. So I'm like the only person watching the replay of Hornets Heat yesterday. And like, I'm over here taking notes because like I'm an unabashed like LaMelo Ball just super fan. Like he's just always going to be number one for me in league pass. Like if LaMelo Ball is on at any given moment, I'm watching LaMelo Ball play basketball. He takes some horrific shots. He does some crazy stuff, but he's so much fun to watch. Like LaMelo Ball is must see. Some of the pass, he's just fun. Like I can't look away. Like I wish all the time. Love watching Trae Young play basketball too. But LaMelo Ball is just so much fun to me. And I'll the big what if of if the Warriors had just taken LaMelo and not worried about the father and everything else, and you have LaMelo the last couple of years in Golden State making life easier for these guys. They're getting older and everything else.
Tyrese Haliburton, could have had him.
See, like the Haliburton one, I don't hit them as much because like I just don't think a lot of teams it's like, oh yeah, the Iowa State guy, obviously he's gonna pan out and do great late in the first, the lottery, that is. LaMelo was like, come on now, like LaMelo versus James White, like you're overthinking this. Just take LaMelo Ball. Like don't worry about hurting some feelings. Like just do it. But I just look at Jaime Jaquez. Wow, it's always gonna take me a while because Jaquez.
Jaquez.
Yes, Jaquez. And he's just like a 17-year vet. Like the way he plays, he's not a rookie. He's huge already. He doesn't really have a position. He rebounds the ball really well. He's really comfortable at the rim. Like he was doing a lot of fun stuff in transition. He's so good at just swiping the ball away. His defense is just, it's one of those things you just have to watch and you're like, this guy just impacts the game in so many different ways that the Heat, even without Jimmy Butler, they're just not really missing a beat. Like Kyle Lowry is obviously not what he used to be. He's not getting those shots. He's getting minutes and he's fine. But I think the other thing with the Heat, and I don't know if you agree with this, Corban, Tyler Hero is taking the lead. Tyler Hero is a really, really good NBA player. And when Jimmy's not there and certain lineups that they're running, Tyler Hero has a lot on his plate offensively, and he is getting shots up, but he's good. Tyler Hero, I don't know if he's going to be a perennial all-star in this league, but it also wouldn't surprise me because Tyler Hero, I think, is the best I've seen him in the NBA right now.
Oh, yeah. He's been very solid this season. He started off hot this year, which, I mean, one is a testament to the growth he's made like as a player, but also his mindset because he wasn't trade rumors for most of, the offseason with Damian Lillard. Started off red hot this season. Obviously, the ankle injuries and other sort of things kept him out for a bit, but since he's been back, he's been great, and he was a big reason why, the Heat won that game against the Nets 2 days ago now, or yesterday. Point being, like, he has been really, really good. And so, I don't know. I still want to improve a lot defensively, like even within a Heat system that, I think does a good job of masking certain players' deficiencies on that end. I think just to be all like, I want to see some actual two-way play there, but the leaps and bounds that he's made on the offensive end and being a guy who can step up while Jimmy Butler right now is taking it kind of half speed before the playoffs. But inevitably, even though Jimmy Butler already has an old man game, he's going to age and just not going to have that gear at all. And to have a guy like Tyler Hero who can, just enter his prime by that point and can assume a larger role there, I think will be great. And he definitely does seem to have the mental makeup and obviously the growth in his game to do so.
I think a good
Is
way.
he the best floater in the NBA right now? Tyler Hero's floater is the one-legged floater. He did it to the Nets late last night.
Tyrese Maxey for me.
Oh, can't go wrong there.
I was thinking Tyrese too.
They're just so pretty. They make it look so
crazy.
easy, and it's just from crazy angles, really far out with Hero too. I don't know who do you think's further out when they take off and the shot's going up. Is it Maxey or Hero?
I might still say Maxey. Hero does go pretty far, but I don't know. Hero does go pretty far. Maybe I'm just thinking Maxey's flying around all the time. You know what I mean? Every time I see
Maxey's just a blur.
Yes, exactly. So I feel like he does just instinctively, like off the top of my head, but like it very well could be Hero there in terms of sheer distance.
And Maxey will do it off the wrong foot too.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part.
It's
like
wild.
His balance.
Quickly also has a nice one. Quickly is a decent one. It's not on the par of the other two, but he's up there in that conversation too.
Baby
especially
Maxey.
since he will shoot it from farther. But
Those three actually have a lot in common. They all have a very, very similar game. I don't know. Like who over the next 10 years, we're going to end it here on this. Next 10 years, who gets the most all-stars of Maxey, Hero, and Emmanuel Quickly in the East?
Oh, Maxey.
I'm also
saying no
Maxey.
question, Maxey.
Yeah.
Okay.
The way the dude is a single-handling offensive engine on his own, almost. I mean, he's still kind of getting consistent.
So we believe it's
there,
sustainable, like what Maxey's doing. It's long-term sustainable.
I mean, it's been half the year so far.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's been proving every year. Like, he was a big part last year, even while James Harden ran the show, and now he's doing it. He's been improving his three-point shooting. I don't see why it couldn't be.
The fact that Philly is a plus when Embiid is off the floor for the first time in his career. and if you look at Maxey's shooting splits when Embiid is off the floor, like he is carrying those units. It is so impressive what he is doing. Like, someone was asking me, in terms of the Quickly Maxey comparison. And I was like, in terms of ceiling, Maxey is probably like a borderline superstar. And I'd put Quickly's ceiling as like a borderline all-star, which is a big gap, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I'd say Maxey quite clearly amongst those three.
That's a good comparison too. Right now, like of where they are and where they could be, I could definitely see that for sure.
I like it. Well, Vivek, we loved having you on tonight's show. Greatly appreciate you coming by to talk some Raptors and NBA as a whole. What can the good folks look out from you all across the internet this week?
So you can check out my work for Sportsnet. I recently did a top 10 trade targets of the players, that have been rumored the most. This Friday, I will have a piece on how OG Anunoby has looked with the Knicks so far. And what that means for the Knicks down the road. So you can check that out. Besides that, you can follow me on Twitter at X at Vivek M. Jacob. And besides that, I did see, your quick plug for like a story by a colleague or whatever. So I do want to shout out my colleague Chelsea Late. She did a story for the Toronto Star on Raptors assistant coach Mary Andrade, a Portuguese legend who played in the WNBA, now an assistant coach with the Raptors, and just a great story. So you should definitely check that out if you have the chance.
I love it. Go do that today if you have not already, and go support Vivek on all the different sites that he is writing and appearing on each and every day. Corban, what about you? What can the good folks check out from you over at Roundball Ramble, Swish Theory, and everywhere else this week?
Oh, appreciate it. Yeah. So Roundball Ramble comes out basically every day. I just recapping the night that was in basketball with some fun guests along the way. As far as roster construction, we for Swish Theory, we did this fun 90s like NBA Hold'em thing where we took different cores in the 90s who had won a championship and tried to build a team that would be a contending team with them. But the kicker is that all the players we picked could only have one all-star or all-NBA defensive team like in their career. So it's definitely it's a fun exercise, but really just team construction conversation and more of a depth on like how certain players fit historically, which I think is fun. We also had Charlie Cummings on last week talking to Golden State Warriors, so I checked that out. That was fun. And I should have I contributed to a big board that Switch Theory is dropping sometime soon, so that'll be out as well. And then last thing to plug, just Basketball Intelligence. I am a part of that, and so we just try to get the best stories in your inbox every day. And it does take some work, like pulling them up and compiling them, but it's really celebrating good writers and good people in the space. Vivek, obviously one of them, like other people who really just contribute quality writing on the NBA, WNBA, and just making sure that if you are a fan and you want to know the latest and greatest, to check that out as well. But yeah, follow me on the X or on the Twitter at Corban NBA, Corban NBA. That's also me on Instagram, but I'm never posting there, but I just like the followers. So
There you go. Vivek, Corban, thank you guys as always. Vivek, we'll have to get you back on again soon. Thank you for the time. Stay warm out there, stay safe, and I'll talk to you all again very soon.